When Grinding Gear Games announced they were bringing back Ultimatum in Affliction League, I was so excited that I jumped out of my chair and ran around the house, hooting and hollering. I believe I shouted something along the lines of, "This is why GGG is the best in the business. They give the people what they want." Hi, it's Larold, and this is my quest to find and kill the Trialmaster twice. It has sucked. What doesn't suck is that we are super close to hitting 1,000 subscribers. This is a huge milestone for us, so if you're watching and not subscribed, we would appreciate you hitting that button. So the initial 3.23 reveal had me extremely excited for the return of Ultimatum. Then the patch notes dropped and there was a little line in there that I thought was curious. Here it is. Monsters in Ultimatum encounters no longer drop loot other than the Trialmaster, though they still grant experience. Okay, no problem. This is fine, I thought. You don't get a bunch of random rare garbage gear, but you still get good rewards from the ultimatums. The rewards will be tuned around getting no loot from the monsters, and it'll be good. Challenging but rewarding, like all Path of Exile content should be. At this point, my thought process was, I love Ultimatum, I'm committing to it, I'm league starting it, I'm locked in. And like a prison cell, I was. I stuck with Ultimatum for 5 days. I made almost no currency, and combined with the Affliction League mechanic, running Ultimatum was like diving headfirst into a wood chipper. All pain, no point. So I specced out of it, swapped over to low-level essence and expedition farming, my usual day 2 strategy, and I picked up the pieces from there. I farmed a Headhunter, then a Mageblood, and even a Mirror of Kalandra in Affliction League, and eventually everything came together fine. Just about a week behind my usual pace for accomplishing all of my goals in a league. About a month into the league, I hit 30-something challenges, so I worked through the rest of the challenges over the span of a few days, eventually reaching 39. And that's where I am right now. As I'm saying this, I'm looking at a challenges page that only has one remaining objective. I just need to kill the Trialmaster in a rare tier 16 map. I love the Trialmaster. He has great voice lines, the Ultimatum music is great, it's a fun, challenging league mechanic, and I think the league boss, the Trialmaster, is a pretty good fight. Everything about it is great except for the part where you are doing this league mechanic for almost no reward. It's like working pro bono. So I've decided to run Ultimatum in maps until I fight the Trialmaster, and if I feel like I get to him too quickly, I will go for round 2. I don't exactly know how bad this is going to be. I'm going to cut forward to the aftermath in a moment here, and I'm probably going to make a joke about time travel when I do, but right now there's a little part of me that is dreading this grind. I thought about trying to combine this with a Maven in-game bossing strategy, like doing ultimatums in Maven juiced shaper maps or something like that to actually make this profitable, but I think I just want to focus on doing ultimatums as fast as I possibly can. I am sprinting directly toward hell, and I'm taking you with me. Okay, I'm back from the future, and I actually kind of had fun. I guess I might be a masochist. I got the boss on map 26 and he died pretty easy. My exact words were, "Well, that was quicker than expected," which got an immediate, "That's what she said," from my channel manager sitting across the room. I wound up doing 101 maps total and I saw him 3 times. Now let's talk about the Atlas strategy I used here. I came up with 2 approaches. I started out really kind of unsure which type of ultimatum objective I wanted to deal with, whether it was protect the altar or survival or doing damage or standing in stone circles. Just wanted to kind of try them all. So I started out with this, just a very basic tree that had basically every single ultimatum node possible except for this ruin one, because I really don't like ruin. And it didn't have a grueling gauntlet. I believe it was actually this setup. Had all the things that would make the rewards be stuff other than just corrupted garbage rares. And I didn't take grueling gauntlet because that would make me unable to find the Trialmaster, and that's kind of the point of doing this whole thing. Also took all the stuff that would give you rewards, increased rewards off of killing the map boss, Etched by Acid, Conquered Conquerors, Remnants of the Past, all that kind of thing, because I was killing the map bosses in Dunes. After 40 maps, technically before hitting 40 maps, but after 40 maps, I changed my strategy up a bit. I decided I wanted to change my strategy up about 25 maps in, but I wanted to kind of hit the end of that 40 run before I made that change. And so I swapped my map strategy over to this, where I dropped the survival and stone circles ones because I found those to be much slower than the ones where you have to kill guys, which both the slaughter them all, the defeating waves of enemies, and then protecting the altar, those are basically the same objective. They're both just kill a bunch of guys that are just sort of different flavors of it. One of them you just regular kill guys, and the other one you kind of arguably have to protect an altar, but not really. So I dropped those 4 points and I just put them into Covetous Shrines just to give myself more shrines in the maps. And that's really what I was going for with the rest of the tree. More shrines just to give myself some more buffs to be a little bit tankier, a little bit stronger. Took the Delve nodes packed with energy and threw some rusted Sulphite Scarabs in there just to give myself a bit more speed and damage and tankiness. I took Harbinger nodes because I didn't feel like there was anything else I really wanted to path to. I think you probably, if you wanted to make this profitable, you could path to like heist nodes and take all of the heist nodes instead of any of all this other stuff, but I didn't want to deal with that. I wasn't really worried about making currency off of this. I was worried mostly just about doing the ultimatums as fast as I possibly could. And I think that worked pretty well. I did actually get several fracturing shards from this strategy. I think it was from this strategy I actually got an entire full fracturing orb. Let's just look at these Scarabs I used. Very basic approach here. I used Gilded Ultimatum Scarabs. I had a couple hundred of them laying around, and then I spent a couple of divines on rusted Sulphite Scarabs. I just use these two. So I would throw 20 of them into the map device at a time. I would fill my whole Wildwood rucksack up with 20 maps, and I would be good to go. As for Sextants, I didn't use any. The only Sextant available for Ultimatum is a Sextant that adds an Ultimatum to your maps, and you can only have one at a time, so it doesn't, there's no point. The preferred map I went with, the map I chose to do was Dunes. I had a lot of Dunes laying around. It's easy to find the boss. It's a pretty easy layout to just zip through and find that Ultimatum. As for rolling the maps, I just chiseled them, alked them, and then made sure they didn't have any build disabling mods. I didn't even care about a certain level of quantity. I turned that off in my regex. I just made sure that like this build can do everything except for can't leech, and reduced effective non-curse auras is pretty irritating. So I made sure that all of the maps didn't have those two mods, but then other than that, I just ran it. I didn't care what it was, and I didn't even bother to vol them. I did not care about the quant on them. I just wanted to get this over with quicker. In terms of what I would do in the maps, I would hunt for the ultimatum, and I feel like there's kind of two approaches. You can either just immediately beeline to the ultimatum, do it, and leave, or you can do the boss and the ultimatum, and then you have the choice of whether you want to do every single ultimatum, or, you know, if you're running this type of talent setup or this type of passive tree setup, you can, when you find one that's a survive and find then one that's stone circles, because those are so much slower, so much more dangerous, you can just skip those maps. And that is the approach I took. Sometimes I would zone in, find the ultimatum immediately, see that it is like a survive set, and I would just leave. 10 seconds in the map, sure, I threw away, I guess, a map and 5 chaos worth of a scarab, but I think it was worth it to do that because the other two types of ultimatums are so much faster. I blew through the last 60. That was really the changeover in strategy I had for the first 40 maps. I did them all. For the last 61 maps, I changed to that other strategy of skipping all of the survive and stone circle sets, and I blew through that last 61 substantially faster than I did the first 40. In terms of my thoughts on Ultimatum, oh my god, it's so overtuned. It actually gives a lot more bubblegum currency than I thought it would. It's so RNG though. A lot of what it gives is worthless crap, and it is not a consistent currency maker. It does give a lot of catalysts though. There's just one problem here. Catalysts are not a high demand currency. When you need them, you need a lot, usually 20 at a time, but a lot of people will just ignore them. It's not a great high volume currency farm strategy like farming harvest for life force or farming essences for essences. I have some tips for not dying. A lot of the good and bad affixes are dictated by your build, but some of them are just universally bad. Leech is really good for dealing with ultimatum. I think it really helps a lot. There aren't any mechanics that disable leech in the ultimatum, and just having tons of defensive layers really is crucial. It does so much damage, and the damage output requirement isn't really that high. Corrupted blood immune is really helpful to have. Ultimatum loves applying corrupted blood. Lots of the 1-point ultimatum choices are build disabling, but will basically do nothing if it doesn't affect your build. Just to give an example, there's one that gives enemies 50% block and spell block chance. That's horrible if your damage is reliant on hitting enemies as 50% damage reduction, but it basically does nothing if you deal damage over time. There are a couple of other things like that. One that gives you 90% reduced regen of life, energy, shield, and mana. Terrible if you are built around regen, but if you're leeching all of your life and mana back, it effectively doesn't do anything. As for affixes that really suck in there, I would say the Blood Altar, that choice is basically a must not take option. There is a passive point here, an Ultimatum passive point. I'm gonna find it. It's really, really painful. It is called Stand Your Ground. Ultimatum encounters in your maps get reduced 3% reduced radius each round. That means by the end of the Ultimatum, the circle is 30% smaller than it was when it started, and it's really not that huge at the start, but it's quite small by the end. So if you combine that with Blood Altar, the Blood Altar will basically occupy the entirety of the circle. There's almost nowhere to stand at all. So those two in conjunction with each other are just basically a non-starter. And the positive of Stand Your Ground really isn't that great. Getting rewards as though you complete an additional round, I don't know, it really never felt like I got a bunch of extra rewards from it. And kind of the same goes for Prove Yourself Worthy. All of the things that have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, like the flaming skulls, the skulls that spit fire at you, they'll all start at tier 2, so they'll all start a lot more dangerous. This is really bad for ruin mechanics in particular. And the 25% chance to duplicate Ultimatum rewards in your maps, I think that's a pretty good payoff. I do think that Prove Yourself Worthy is an adequate risk reward. Stand Your Ground, not so much. I think it's pretty bad. So here I have a spreadsheet, just kind of compiling some of the data from this run. I did 101 maps, and as you can see here, I had 9 total deaths, which I guess is maybe less than I thought I would have. I don't know, it certainly feels like a lot of deaths. I know you get a lot of XP generation from Ultimatum, but you counteract it so hard by dying so much. It's really hard to stay alive. I also wrote down the number of deaths per type. I had 4 from Flaming Skulls. I really tended to juice Flaming Skulls because I feel like they're pretty easy to deal with at lower levels, but in conjunction with like rares hitting you at the exact same time, the Flaming Skulls can really, I mean, they killed me. The main reason I didn't get killed by Stormcaller Runes and Altar of Blood more often is because I just tried to never take those. Stormcaller Runes are annoying. They deny so much area. They're pretty bad. And Altar of Blood is just like instant death the moment you get near it. Razor Blades, I think the main issue with them is once they hit rank 4, they will leave behind like a blood pool on the ground, and that is pretty brutal. As we can see here, I saw 3 Trialmasters. I got the first one on map 25. I got the second one pretty shortly thereafter, map 36, and then I got the third one on map 93. I was kind of hoping to get one on the 101st map. The reason I did 101st map was I had 68 completed trials, and I didn't want to end on 68, so 101st, end on 69, that'll work. 3 Trialmasters in that time, I think that's okay. That's honestly a higher chance than I thought. You know, that means I completed 69 of them, and he was there 3 times. Pretty easy to figure that out. About a 5% chance, 4 to 5% chance for him to show up, which I thought his appearance rate was something more like 1 in 100, but you know, with Brave the Tower and all of the nodes along the wheel to get there, that is, what is that? 40 and 30, so 70% increased chance for him to get there. So his appearance chance is probably like 2.5% by default. So with those nodes, I think his appearance chance is actually quite a lot higher than I expected. So if you're just rushing to Ultimatum and doing it, you can actually finish this challenge pretty quickly, I think. You know, I could be an extreme outlier and have gotten him 3 times in under 100 runs, but, you know, I don't think so. It definitely felt really nice to clear that last challenge off, because that had just been sitting there taunting me for, like, forever. As for the skips, I was kind of surprised by how many skips I had to do. Like, I only counted the 61 maps that I did in map sets 3 through 5. You know, I broke them into 20 map sets, other than the 5th one, which is 21, just like I had done with the Harvest sets. That worked for kind of just keeping an eye on how many I was completing, how many times I was dying, how many times I failed to ruin. I only failed to ruin twice. That's, again, mainly because I just kind of try to not do ruin debuffs, ruin effects. They're pretty irritating to deal with. And finally, like I said, I got a lot of bubblegum currency along the way, but I was kind of surprised by how little I got in the way of divine orbs. I got 3 in the first 40 maps. That was okay. Then I never saw another one again. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of hoped to see more currency. I really wish that this mechanic was more rewarding. It is so incredibly lethal. It really would make a lot of sense if it were more rewarding, but it's not. It's not at all. Now, in terms of the actual currency I made from the Ultimatum tab, I cleared out the tab before I started this, and I have not actually looked to see what this is worth, so I'm gonna pop open Wealthy Exile here in a second. Inscribed ultimatums. Now, inscribed ultimatums are usually, their value normally would fluctuate a bit, but because there's a challenge for completing 10 of them, they're basically all worth a divine, so you could argue that all of these are worth a divine each. I think the correct way to price them, if there weren't the challenge related, is you price them for, depending on how bad the affixes are. Like this one has some pretty nasty affixes and it requires sacrificing a divine to get a divine. Realistically, this shouldn't sell for a divine. It should probably sell for like half of a divine. But you know, there's a challenge involved. So I would say all of these are a divine, probably 22 divines worth of inscribed ultimatums if I could actually sell them, which is less likely. A lot of people just choosing not to do this challenge entirely, or if they were going to do it, they'd already done it. So I will just refresh Wealthy Exile and check the Ultimatum tab out and just, you know, I don't really want to break down all of this because I don't really care how much this is all worth, but allegedly it's worth 44 divines. This is a 44 divine value on the tab. And this is all catalysts purely from this run. So, you know, I think that once I kind of got into a rhythm where I was skipping and not doing the bad ultimatum objectives at all, I think for the last 61 maps, I probably spent, as a conservative estimate, 2.5 minutes per map. So 2.5 times 61, that's, you know, 2.5 hours or so. Again, rough estimate there. But in that time, you know, I don't know how much of this came from each set, but let's say I spent probably 5 hours on the whole time. If I made 44 divines in 5 hours, I think that's pretty bad. You know, that's only about 9 divines an hour. That's just the catalysts, which is fine. I definitely wasn't keeping any sort of strict notes on this. I did not take like any notice of how much bubblegum currency I had. I know I had under 5,000 chaos when I started, so I got a couple hundred chaos worth of bubblegum currency, and I got a handful of divines. I don't think it's the absolute worst farm strategy I've ever seen, but for how incredibly painful it is, for how incredibly dangerous it is, I don't think it's great. I do think this is a great strategy for getting this challenge done as quickly as you can. I think that aspect of it is good. As for Ultimatum as a mechanic itself, I like all the aesthetics of it. I want it to be good, but it isn't right now. It needs to have some sort of increased rewards. Either it needs to just have more rewards, or maybe these nodes right here, worthy of the past and worthy of the future and worthy of the present, maybe instead of increasing the chance to get currency items, like that amount is doubled, or it adds extra currency items or uniques or div cards. It needs to do something beyond what it does right now, which is sort of just a random crap generator that is insanely lethal. Maybe they could just make the monsters drop loot again. Something needs to change for this mechanic going forward, because I love it as a League mechanic. I think it is extremely fun, even though it is insanely brutal, but it's so unrewarding, like to a criminal degree, and that's really not right in a game like Path of Exile. So with that being said, I really had a lot more fun than I expected. I wouldn't say that this was a lucrative strategy by any stretch. This definitely isn't something that I'm going to be folding into my farm strategies of the future. But I did find it to be fun in terms of pursuing a challenge and actually accomplishing that goal a lot faster than I expected. And then just kind of seeing, like, was that a one-time fluke? Going for it a little bit more and saying, no, actually, it seems like that really is the rate at which he spawns. It's actually quite a lot higher than I had feared, and that was pretty nice. In the end, I think I would give this about a 6 out of 10. I wouldn't do it again unless there's another challenge associated with doing Ultimatum again next League, which I think it's more likely that GGG just buffs this mechanic that is underperforming so much right now. All right, that's it. If you liked this video or found it helpful for getting your challenges done, please give us a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And of course, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Thanks for watching, and Try to have fun doing Ultimatum. Bye.